There again, out on my not daily walk, it's only every second day I do the walks, but I promised myself, as I think I mentioned in another video, that I should do my 10,000 steps every day until the next PSA text. So now I'm out here enjoying the good weather among the rice fields, tapioca fields, and a little bit of a jungle to my left. But one topic I wanted to touch base on here as I'm out walking and doing my exercise is a problem that I have encountered quite a few times during my last 10 months of research of what to do and what not to do and how to do things. And that's the fact that no matter what you do, you'll always be able to find the research that will support whatever bias you have. And that's annoying, because you would want somebody to do a research that supported the truth. And then it feels a little bit out of reach with reality that you can have peer-reviewed papers that basically says the opposite of one another. And then you're left with what is the truth. And then you have all these anecdotes, and you have all these people around who are adamantly believing in a specific way of doing things with very little to no interest of widen that horizon, because they already got the answers. And that's one of the things that I'm very cautious about, not ending up becoming one of those. So my research is genuine in terms of if I do find something that is different from what I do now, I have to consider it. That's just the way it is, because it's not about being right or being wrong. It's about doing the right thing in order to survive, basically. And so back in the days, it's not that long ago actually, when I spent some time teaching people survival. I've done some videos on the YouTube as well on this matter. But one of the things that is important when you're venturing out into the wilderness, it is that you are prepared. And when we're talking preparedness in terms of what to eat, for instance, then it's fair enough to have a good knowledge base about which kind of fruits and which kind of roots and which kind of plants and herbs and so on is edible just by the glance of it. But you might be finding yourself in an area where you actually don't know the fauna. The first time when I came to Thailand, the whole jungle was fantastic. It's just like a playground for a guy like me who's into survival and bushcraft. The jungle is just a fantastic place. But I had no dandelions, I had no nellies, I had no birch trees. And so there was a lot of things that I have learned from the Scandinavian forest that I just couldn't put to use out here. And about edibles, well, you've got to have a way, a system to assess whether something is edible or not. And the way you do that is basically first of all, you have to figure out whether there is a lot of the thing you want to eat. I mean, if you go to a place and you see 2 apples and that's all there is, don't spend your time trying to figure out if those apples are edible or not, if that's something you need to test first. Because if you only got 2 apples, it's not worth the effort. So the first thing is to assess what quality is it we're having in hand. The second one is to see if it looks edible. If it's something that looks very hostile, it probably is, because nature have a fantastic way of producing things in order to signal what they are, edible or not. The second thing, or not second thing, but the next step is to see if it smells bad, or if your nose is rejecting it, because your nose is one of the finest tools you have in your box. And if your nose says, no, this one ain't something I like, then stay away from it. If your nose says, wow, this smells like something I'll get the cravings for, you might be on your right path here. The next one, it is that you take a little bit of it. If you pass all these tests here, you take a little bit of it and you rub it on your skin. See if you get some allergic reactions. Wait an hour or so, and if nothing happens, then you take a little bit of it and you chew it up in your mouth and spit it out. And if there is no irritations, if everything seems good, you don't get dizzy, or there is no negative impact on that, you take a little bit more, and this time you swallow it. Now you wait 8 hours. Again, the first one you also wait 8 hours. And if you still don't have any reactions, there is a very high probability you found yourself something of an abundance that is edible if you follow those steps. Now, if you're walking out and about and you want to find information as to what to eat and how to treat cancer, you kind of got to have some tool in the box where you can venture into that information jungle and figure out which one is right, which one is not. Now I'm saying this because I just came across a woman in one of the support groups, and I think she's an admin of the group. She's very adamant anyway, posting that RSO is something people should watch out for because it is just scammers who sells it, because it is not just not working, but it produces, as he stated, some sort of ash in quotation signs, which is then in turn feeding the cancer. So it's very counterproductive to use RSO, according to her. She had a few other statements that I did not really feel aligned with, but that was certainly something that I didn't like much. So I asked her because this was the first time I ever came across that kind of information, and I am relying heavily on the RSO as being my source of healing. I asked her if she had some sources of where I could get information about that, because I've never heard it before. And the response was that she had a lot of good stories from real testaments, from real people who has done the real treatment, and with very short amount of time has cured themselves of cancer using fruits. And I was just like, oh, but that was not my question. That's one thing. The second thing is fruit is fructose. That's sugar. You don't want to feed cancer. Now, I still haven't got the answer as far as prostate cancer and breast cancer goes, which seems to be hormone driven. But when you put them to sleep, they don't die. So it can't be the hormones that they're living off. They have to be living off something else. But I know the other cancers, they are living off a fermentation process of glucose and glutamine. And so fruit shouldn't be it. But she was very adamant that there was a difference between processed sugar and fruit sugars. And it was a very important and vital part of the body functionality that we have these glucoses. So it was part of the healing process. It was not part of the damaging process. And I was like, oh, hold on a second here. Who is then right? And what am I doing here? What am I doing wrong? Because obviously I can't deny that my numbers are going in the right direction, but we can also not deny the fact that they don't go in the right direction very fast. And so she might be right? And that's when I have to come back to my little toolbox story, because then I rewinded and I realized, okay, first of all, she did not provide me with that sample. Secondly, she kind of insinuated that because the grapefruit treatment worked, then my treatment obviously couldn't work. And she did openly say that all I was doing was just delaying the healing process until I got my thing straight. And well, she's one of those who is telling people what to do and literally telling what to be. I'm emphasizing all the time that I'm doing this for me, and what I'm doing cannot be copied because I am me. I am in this stage in my life, and I am reached this stage of my life, but doing a certain amount of exercise and certain kind of exercise until this time in my life. And I have been eating what I have been eating until this point, and I have been smoking or not. And there's so many variables to my person that you just can't take what I do and copy it anyway. So you need a toolbox. And my toolbox is the same as I use for carnivore. It's become my little holy grail, really. So I rewind and I say, okay, could fructose be a part of the healing game? No, definitely not. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it doesn't fit in my toolbox. And my toolbox says that until 1930, there was only 1 billion people in the world. So up till about 1930 or 1850 or so, there was plenty of food. People, they could eat healthy. People, they could eat what they desired because there was enough of it. And now I'm talking about animal product in particular, yeah? But about 1850, we started to see a explosion in more people being born, or yeah, whatever. And in 1930, as I mentioned, 1 billion people. Now there is a high demand for more food than can be produced easily. Mass production, prices and whatnot. And so that's where we really saw the agricultural evolution or escalation. We got corn a lot, we got flour, we got bread, we got pasta, we got rice, we got potatoes. So we got a lot of things, a lot of starch that doesn't really do anything good for your body, but now people, they feel full. they don't feel hungry, we have things under control. And that's kind of been the ruling mantra from now on, that this is how the diet should be. But if you look at how obese people has become over the past 100 years, I know there will be those who says it doesn't mean that that's the reason, but 2 + 2 is still 4. So my toolbox says evolution doesn't happen over 100 years. It doesn't even happen over 1,000 years. It happens over 1,000,000 years. And if you're looking at the monkeys and looking at their intestines, they have a huge appendix because they are built and still built to eat greens, leaves and stuff. You look at human intestines, we don't. We're not made to eat primarily greens. We're made to eat primarily animal products. And so, can glucose be good against cancer? Well, the answer is not exactly as easy as I started out by saying, because the reason why we have all this fruit and the reason we have all these vegetables is because about 100 or 200 years ago, they started genetically manipulate things into becoming more edible. And in doing so, we did get access to certain compounds that might have a positive impact on cancer. And a good example is the tomato, for instance. I can't remember where it came from, South America or wherever, but it was a poisonous fruit, but it was manipulated to become one of the most delicious add-ons to a pasta. And I'm a great fan of tomatoes. And tomatoes contains lycopene. Lycopene has been proven to be good against prostate cancer. So that's a good example of a fruit that was, say, 200 years ago, not edible. Now it is, and because it's edible, we have access to some of the values of it. But our whole body is not built to process huge amount of vegetables. And because of that, access to these things might come at a cost. And I don't think the cost, I think the cost is too high compared to what you gain from it, because we're not built to it. And if you want to argue that one, there's another thing that I think is interesting. I've been a carnivore now since the August last year. And I go to the number 2, do the big ones on the toilet, right? For the uninitiated, twice a week when I'm doing real carnivore. That's it. Depending on how much exercise I'm doing and what else I'm doing, I'm staying steady on my weight, which is about 87 kilo at this current point. And that's by doing the number 2 twice a week. And I'm eating between 1 and 2 pounds of meat every day. And once you say you should be getting bloated if you're eating that much and you're not going to the toilet. But no, but the body uses 80-90% of whatever I put in my mouth. So I don't need to go to the loo that often. So kind of indirectly, you could say that the vegan diet, where you probably got to go. I saw somebody saying that when somebody was asking how often was expected to go to the loo, and somebody answered, said, well, if you eat 3 times a day, you need to go to the loo 3 times. If nothing else, that kind of proves that you shovel a lot of things in your face that your body just don't need. Because if it needed it, you wouldn't need to go to the toilet that often. So, to get back to the topic, in order to make sure that I can navigate the jungle of information, I always return to basic and say, well, if glucose really is a healing property, are we evolved in to make use of it? And the answer is no. Is vegan and vegetables the way to heal? Well, technically it could be. But out of an evolutionary stance, not if you want to create a healthy and strong body and let the body do the fight. Because we're not built to be vegans, plain and simple. I understand the argument of animal health and animal welfare, and I am totally pro all that. But in terms of human health, that has got nothing to do with the topic of animal welfare. And there, I believe the animal product is really the only way we've got to go for. Again, also, if you look at how the past was, a hunter-gatherer, it was, after all, a hunter-gatherer. Now, I understand we could get the history wrong, but all the things we have found in the past from people in these periods of time of life is tools for hunting. And you don't use tools for hunting just to go find vegetables. And the second thing is, like I said, it's a couple of hundred years ago. We've seen the agricultural revolution actually started 40,000 years ago, but seriously about 200 years ago it exploded because we got so many people to feed. I really don't see how that can be part of the healing process of making use of that. And that is supported then, but let's just roughly say 50% of all the peer-reviewed research that's out there. And then once you have concluded that, you can kind of dig into those kind of research, knowing that they are at least a better fit to the logic than all the research stating that vegetables is the only way or fruit is the only way. So yeah, very exciting, but it's very, very interesting because you gotta have some tools in your box if you want to navigate this. In these day and age with AI and fake news and fake pictures and fake reports of this and that, and people's financial biases to sell and to say, oh, it is almost impossible for a regular layman to find and navigate his way around those kind of information unless you get yourself a little bit of a tool that helps you navigate. And this is my tool. What have we evolved to do? And then what is reasonable to conclude based on that? I know it's the extrapolations and it does not necessarily make me the one that hit the spot right on. But it's hard to argue the fact that I am in my best shape, well, for the past 30 years for sure. And I'm feeling great, really great. The only time I feel a little bit not so great is when I'm getting extremely qualified, not so optimistic and not so positive feedback, because it does knock me out of balance a little bit. Anyway, love my hiking. That was probably a long rant. I can't see it because of my shades, but I will upload it as usual, unedited, the raw version, no matter how much I'm babbling. Until next time, as usual, stay healthy.